Bumped into an old school friend at the weekend. It was great to see him. This fella called Simran Shah. He was my little Indian friend at school. Funny name. Don't imagine there are too many Coke bottles at the moment with his name on it. At least not in this country. There probably are in India or places like that. But anyway, bumped into it. It was nice to see him. I basically was in the pub smashing pints with Jeremy, and we were talking about we had a discussion about Harry Potter because we haven't done that for a while, and we were talking about Voldemort. But then when we talk about Voldemort, we don't like to use his name, so we obviously refer to him as He Who Shall Remain Nameless. But there's a really funny moment where Jeremy, instead of saying he who shall remain nameless, he said He Who Shall Rename Mainless. I thought, what? But I didn't say anything, obviously, because people won't make mistakes, and didn't want to knock his confidence or anything. But then, as the conversation progressed, he said, in my opinion, in the Gran Stephen things, book 7 is the best. I thought, Gran Stephen, what are you talking? I said to him, Jeremy, what do you mean in the Gran Stephen things? What sort of nonsense is this? He said, in the Gran Stephen things. I said, it's not the Gran Stephen things, you idiot. It's the grand scheme of things. He said, no, the grand. I said, what do you mean? What does it mean? What do you think it means? He said, well, when you sort of sum something up within, sort of take it within its context and kind of view it within that those parameters. And I said, yes. He said, like Gran Stephen used to. I said, who's Gran Stephen, for heaven's sake, Jeremy? He said, I don't know, some sort of old English, wise woman that would give good advice. And anyway, this went on for a while. I was I let him know that he'd mispronunciated words, and anyway, the argument finished when Simran showed up, and it was good to see him. We were Jeremy knew him a bit as well, because Jeremy came to the school late. Jeremy had been bullied at the school, so he came in late, and he sort of joined in with me and Simran, and we were known as the tripod at school. But we actually fell out, unfortunately. Simran was an insensitive fella. He sort of. I told on him, which is why we fell out. But he deserved it. It was after September the 11th. It was the next day, September the 12th, and we were called into assembly at school. And Simran did this. He was in the row in front of me, and as the head teacher was talking about what had happened, he did this. He went. He looked round at me and he just went, Tom. Splat. Honestly, it's the most insensitive thing I've ever seen. There was a queue of about 14 girls just immediately lining up to telling him, frothing at the mouths with the anticipation of a good dobbing. And I joined them, unfortunately. I wish I didn't, because I lost a pretty good friend, but I did, and he actually got suspended for 4 days. But we were good mates. We used to hang out all the time. I remember we used to do magic together. He and I. We had this David Blaine DVD where David Blaine would reveal all his tricks and stuff. And there's this one trick where he would do this thing where he'd resurrect a fly. He would get a fly off the side of a windowsill, put it on his hand, go like that, and then the fly would just fly off, and everyone was like this. What? But then the DVD told us how he did it. He basically caught a fly, chucked it in the freezer for a minute, and then that made the fly fall asleep, put it on the side of the windowsill, and then go, oh, look at this, do you reckon I can resurrect this fly? Everyone's like, no, of course you can't, you're not an actual magician. The fly's legs start tweaking, zoom. It was great, so we thought we would give this a go, but it turns out it's pretty difficult to catch a fly. And we were planning on doing it at Simran's parents' Christmas party, so we only had that afternoon to sort of figure something out, so we went down the local pet shop and bought 4 mice. Which it doesn't quite work the same, which obviously I know now. I'm not an idiot, but back then I don't know, I got carried away or whatever. So we froze these mice for about, I think, half. We decided that because they were bigger, it should be longer, so it's half an hour in the freezer, and tried to perform the trick. It's far more difficult as well, because you can't really just pick a mouse off the side of a windowsill. You have to get everyone out into the garden, pretend to find a mouse on the floor, on the palm of your hand, and then it was about 7 minutes in, we were both crying because we realised what had happened. We'd just frozen to death, innocent mice. Anyway, that was the end of our magical career. But he was an insensitive sort. I remember me and Jeremy were around his house once, and because he goes to India quite a lot, obviously, to see his family and stuff, all these weddings that they have. Me and Jeremy were around, and he used to keep hamsters. He had about 12 hamsters. But instead of giving them to us, or giving them to family or something, when he would go away, he used to put Action Man parachutes on them, and throw them out of his window. And to my shame, I would join in. I shouldn't have done, but I did. And it would work. It was really impressive. These parachutes would go poof, and you could just watch this hamster just sort of slowly fall to the ground. But I didn't realise initially that there was quite a big pond underneath his bedroom window, and so they drowned to death. Still feel pretty guilty about that. So, you know, I miss him, obviously, and it was nice to see him, but looking back, you know, essentially all we did was kill animals. He was a bit of a psychopath. Now working in banking, incidentally.